There exists no more reliable instrument of control than a man who believes he is free. He wakes before the sun, shuffles off to his duties with purpose etched into his brow, speaks of ambition and dreams as if they were born within his own breast. But in truth, he is a domesticated creature, broken not by chains but by comfort, shaped not by kings but by systems he does not see. What triumphs over him is not violence but design. He has been molded, not for liberty, but for service. You were not raised to be sovereign. You were groomed to be manageable. From your first breath, you were introduced to approval, to applause, to punishment for straying too far from expectation. They clothed it in virtue, discipline, excellence, productivity. They taught you to measure your worth by utility, to equate busyness with dignity. The tragedy is not that you followed this path, but that you mistook it for your own. Observe the masses, how they march with conviction toward destinations they did not choose, how they hunger for goals they did not define. The pursuit of money, status, and recognition is no more an act of freedom than the beating of hooves in a stampede. Most men run not toward something, but away from the stillness that might reveal their emptiness. Their haste is not ambition, but evasion. Understand this. The true insurgent is not the one who shouts in the streets or paints signs of resistance. The one who truly unsettles the order is the figure who cannot be enticed, who does not hunger for applause, who walks alone because he answers only to himself. He is not dangerous because he disrupts. He is dangerous because he cannot be owned. You cannot tempt him with gold, nor frighten him with exclusion. His contentment is forged within, and that renders him immune. He owes no explanations, signs no contracts of the soul. In his stillness he unmasks the absurdity of the race. He is a heretic of the invisible religion of performance, and his very presence is blasphemy. Why does he offend you so? Why does his calm provoke your unrest? It is not that he judges you, he has no need, but his existence reveals the artifice of your own. He doesn't chase, and in doing so, reminds you that you need not chase either. But you do, because the absence of motion would force you to hear your own silence. And what would you find there? You were not taught to think. You were trained to respond. From your earliest moments, stimulus was tied to reward. Effort was praised only when it served output. Rest was reframed as weakness. You absorbed the rhythm of production until it pulsed in your blood. And now, when you are still, you feel guilt instead of peace. You feel waste instead of worth. The system did not enslave your body. It captured your sense of self. It replaced identity with activity. It taught you that value lies not in who you are, but in how efficiently you serve. It installed in your mind a taskmaster more persistent than any tyrant, a whispering voice that berates idleness, demands progress, and punishes pause. But reflect for a moment. Who profits from this urgency? Who gains from your exhaustion? Who benefits when your time is devoured by obligations you never questioned? The truth is this: usefulness, in the eyes of power, is a disguise for obedience, and the more indispensable you appear, the more deeply you've been compromised. A man who halts, who dares to pause in the middle of the herd, does something radical. He reclaims his time, and in doing so, he reclaims his mind. The moment he stops moving, the illusion falters. Questions arise, and questions are the seeds of revolt. Why do I labor? For whom? At what cost? What have I traded for comfort, for applause, for security? And what remains of me underneath the mask of roles? The answers, if pursued, will terrify you, for you will see that you have become efficient, yes, but hollow. Your schedule is full, yet your soul is absent. Your accomplishments impress others, yet fail to feed you. You have achieved much, but it has brought you no peace. You are praised as productive, yet you cannot sleep. And so you fill the void with more work, more goals, more noise, but the hunger remains. And it is not the hunger of the poor, it is the famine of the obedient. You obey not a man, not a king, but a system that does not know your name and does not care for your joy. It only demands that you keep moving. Consider the one who no longer moves. He is not lazy. He is liberated. He is not poor. He is unreachable. He does not count hours or measure worth in metrics. He inhabits the day like a sovereign occupies a throne, with intention, with presence. And that more than rebellion, more than resistance, is what unsettles those still in the race. His very calm is subversive. It whispers, you could choose differently, and that is a contagion more powerful than any ideology. The others see him and feel unease, not because he condemns them, but because his serenity betrays their restlessness. He is not loud, yet he shakes the edifice of conformity. You must ask yourself, who would I be without this race? Who am I without my busyness, without my productivity, without the constant need to become something more? If these were taken from you, would you remain whole or would you collapse? This is the measure of how deeply you've been colonized. Most would collapse, for they have built their identity not upon being but upon doing. They fear stillness not because it is unpleasant, but because it unmasks the truth that they have become mechanisms of a system, not masters of their own lives. They fear reflection because it reveals how much they have been negotiated, compromised, sold. And so, when confronted with the possibility of peace, they turn away. Peace demands courage. It strips away performance and leaves the raw, unfiltered self, and that is a self most have not met in decades, or perhaps ever. It is easier to run, easier to obey, easier to pretend. But the one who no longer pretends, he begins to remember. He remembers that he was not born to obey, to produce, to chase endlessly after symbols. He remembers that value cannot be measured in outcomes. That dignity is not given by others, but claimed in solitude. That success is not accumulation, but alignment with self. This remembrance makes him ungovernable, not through defiance, but through absence. He no longer engages in the currency of approval. He withdraws his labor from the machine, not as protest, but as self-restoration. He no longer performs for applause, no longer competes for a crown he never asked to wear. He walks away, and in doing so, he wins. And those who remain, they do not understand. They mock his peace. They call him a failure, a coward, a dropout. But beneath their scorn is envy. For in their hearts they know he has escaped, and they have not. He lives on terms they have never dared to consider. His silence echoes louder than their noise. What does it cost to live this way? Everything that was never yours to begin with. Illusions, expectations, false ambitions. It is not the price of freedom that is high. It is the cost of staying chained that drains the soul. He pays the price once. You pay it daily in pieces. You see, freedom is not a gift, nor is it granted. It is seized, first within, then without. It requires not violence, but clarity, not power over others, but mastery over self. And that is why so few attain it, not because it is far, but because it is buried under layers of conditioning. And yet, when you meet such a man, one who has uncovered it, something within you stirs. You recognize him, not as stranger, but as reflection. You see in him the life you might have lived had you dared. And for a moment, the illusion trembles, the clock slows, the noise dims, and you ask quietly, "What if I stopped?" Do not expect a monument to this man. Do not expect a title or a headline. His revolution is not televised. It is internal. His weapon is presence. His victory is invisibility. He does not march. He does not preach. He simply is. And that, in a world of performance, is the ultimate rebellion. He is feared not because he threatens violence, but because he cannot be captured. He cannot be made to hunger for what others crave. He does not kneel, not out of pride, but because he has no master, not even his own ego. And that is a level of power that no state, no market, no ruler can offer or destroy. He chooses his battles, he selects his companions, he speaks when necessary and listens when wise. He navigates the world like a lion through tall grass, quiet, sovereign, unprovoked. He owes no explanations and he demands none. He is beyond persuasion, beyond propaganda, beyond reach. To some, he appears irrelevant, to others, dangerous. But to those with eyes to see, he is a blueprint, a reminder that it is possible to live without chains, that peace need not be earned through exhaustion, that dignity is not the property of the successful, but the sovereign. And now you stand at a crossroads whether you admit it or not. The choice is not between riches and poverty, not between fame and obscurity. The choice is between borrowed existence and conscious life, between performance and presence, between running or remembering. The greatest manipulation ever devised is not the sword at your throat, nor the jailer at your door. It is the whisper inside your skull telling you that your worth depends upon movement. That voice, though not yours, has spoken to you for so long that you now obey it without hesitation. You call it ambition. You celebrate your obedience to it. But in truth you are possessed by it, and you defend your captor like a loyal subject defends a cruel prince. Let us speak plainly. Those who govern this world do not need force when they can offer illusion. They do not need to coerce you if they can make you addicted to approval. Why use chains when you will race to build your own cage? Why bribe a man when he will gladly sell himself for applause? All they must do is shape your longing, and they will shape your life. You do not live as you are, you live as you are seen. Your image, not your essence, dictates your behavior. You arrange your life not for peace, but for optics. You choose not what fulfills, but what impresses. You are less a man than a projection, less a woman than a collection of reactions. Your very identity has become theatre, your presence a costume, but in the shadows of this masquerade, there walks a figure who declines the performance. He speaks softly, moves deliberately, and wants for nothing. He is not known for charisma, yet people feel his gravity. He does not need to dominate. His absence of hunger unsettles far more than any conquest, for he reveals, simply by standing still, how fabricated the rush truly is. This is not a saint nor a recluse. He is no prophet and no priest. He is a man who stopped running, not out of fatigue, but out of clarity. He saw the cycle for what it was, a trap disguised as triumph. He realized that the path to validation is circular and its destination is always moving, that no amount of recognition could quiet a soul that had been silenced. His power lies not in what he owns, but in what he no longer needs. He has released himself from the invisible leash of public opinion. He no longer negotiates his existence in the marketplace of worth, and that makes him unmanageable. He does not plead, he does not perform, he does not produce merely for permission to exist. In his defiance there is no noise. He does not curse the rulers nor mock the herd. He simply removes himself. He walks through the world like a man who has already returned home. And those who watch him feel discomfort, not because he judges them, but because his presence challenges everything they have accepted as necessary. It is not fame he renounces, it is dependence. He may be seen or unseen, praised or ignored. It is irrelevant. What matters is that he answers to himself. He has become the ruler of an invisible kingdom, his own time, his own energy, his own mind, and that is a sovereignty no regime can overrule. You who still chase must now ask yourself, who planted the idea that your value must be earned every day? Who convinced you that rest is sin, that pause is weakness, that slowness is shame? Who told you that unless you're useful, you're nothing? And why did you believe them? They trained you to serve, not with whips, but with dreams. They whispered of success, of admiration, of being wanted. And you ran, not for survival, but for validation. You gave your hours, your thoughts, your health, not to your cause, but to theirs. You decorated your cage and called it progress. You bound yourself to a mission you did not write, and when you tired, you asked only for better shoes. The man who stopped, he asks different questions. He asks, why run? Why produce? Why obey? His inquiries are sharp and uninvited, and so the system labels him mad, lazy, dangerous. But deep down, even those who mock him know he is free, and that knowledge eats at them like a silent flame. He is not admired, but he is felt. His calm is disarming. His stillness is not absence, but presence. Where others chase clarity in chaos, he finds vision in silence. He does not seek the spotlight, for he knows how blinding it is. Instead, he watches, not passively, but with intention. While others strive to be seen, he strives to see. You mistake movement for meaning. You confuse urgency with purpose. You have been taught that to slow down is to decay, to question is to betray. But these were not your teachings. These were installed. And now, when your body begs for rest and your soul cries for stillness, you call it failure instead of wisdom. And yet, the truth does not vanish simply because you are too busy to see it. You can mask your weariness with caffeine, your dissatisfaction with purchases, your anxiety with noise. But eventually the silence will find you, and in that silence, you will face the one thing you cannot outrun: yourself. That man who lives quietly, disconnected from the frenzy, he has faced himself. He has endured the awkward stillness, the painful honesty, the shedding of false skins. He has felt the discomfort of disapproval, the void left by no longer being seen. And through it all, he discovered something rare: authenticity. Not the kind you brand or market, but the kind you feel when no one is watching. When you speak and it is not to convince. When you act and it is not to impress. When your every movement is an extension of inner choice, not outer demand. That is a freedom most men never taste, for they fear the hunger it requires before it nourishes. The system knows this hunger. That's why it keeps you fed with distractions. It offers you new goals before you can question the old ones. It floods you with images of others, so you forget to look inward. It surrounds you with noise, so you never hear your own clarity. You think you are choosing, but you are reacting. The one who no longer reacts has become a mirror. He holds nothing, yet he reflects everything. His lack of need exposes your dependence. His refusal to prove himself shames your endless self-explanation. He has no strategy to win the game, because he has exited the board. This frightens those who remain, for if enough people saw the game for what it is, the entire theatre would collapse. The applause would cease, the performers would leave the stage, and all that would remain is the question: Who am I without this? The system cannot answer that. Only you can. But to answer it, you must first become still. Not for a moment, but long enough for the illusions to surface. You must sit through the discomfort of being unseen, the agony of not achieving. You must allow the identity you borrowed to dissolve, and that feels like death, because in a way it is. But what emerges from that death is not emptiness, it is clarity, and with clarity comes choice. Not the illusion of choice between one approved path and another, but the real freedom to build your own, to live as if your life were yours, because it always was, though you forgot. You will lose much. You will be misunderstood. You will be mocked, pitied, ignored. You will walk through rooms where once you were celebrated and now you are dismissed. But you will gain yourself, and that is a currency no empire can devalue. Those who live this way, they are not many, but they are enough. They remind others, in silence, that another way exists, not by preaching, not by converting, but by becoming. They are the living proof that freedom is not given, but remembered, that value is not assigned, but realized, that worth is not built, but uncovered. And here you are hearing these words. You cannot return to ignorance, for the seed has been planted. Even if you run now, something inside you has stopped. And in that stillness you will begin to see, slowly, uncomfortably, beautifully. You will see the absurdity of your hurry. You will hear the quiet wisdom beneath your noise. You will taste, perhaps for the first time, what it means to belong to yourself. And then the world will look different. Not because it changed, but because you did. You may continue to play your roles, fulfill your duties, meet your deadlines, but something will shift. You will no longer confuse obedience with virtue. You will no longer bow for approval. You will move with choice, not compulsion, and that difference, though invisible to others, will be the foundation of your new kingdom. A kingdom with no subjects, no thrones, no court of approval, just you, sovereign, silent, undivided. That, my listener, is the quietest revolution and the most enduring. Niccolo Machiavelli.